Welcome back. There was enough action during this year's election that we decided to recognize some standout performances, the really impressive and the truly disastrous. So to wrap up this year's campaign season, we now present to you the Pure Politics 2012 Elections Awards, and joining me again to present these awards is political producer Jacqueline Pitts. And Jacqueline, I guess I should have worn my tux for this. You're looking spiffy.
Probably. I always knew this prom dress would come in handy again. I'm glad I got to wear it again at least. But let's go ahead and get the awards started. And the first one, we'll go ahead and get started with our first category, Best Candidate in an Upset. Qualifications being that the person unseated an incumbent unexpectedly. And the winner of this award is Whitney Westerfield of the 3rd State Senate District race. Westerfield is a newcomer who unseated Democratic incumbent Joey Pendleton in the district covering Christian, Logan, and Todd counties. This contest didn't make our list of races to watch, but it potentially was a sleeper. And Westerfield apparently pulled it off, pending a recanvass.
And our next category is Best Candidate in a Losing Effort, and there were a lot of good ones this year who fell just short on Tuesday. Republican Representative Mike Nemes gave it a good try to keep his seat in Louisville, but we gave the winner of Best Candidate in a Losing Effort to Democrat Kelly Whitaker. Whitaker ran against Republican Richard Heath to fill the vacant seat in Graves and Southern McCracken County. Whitaker and Heath had many of the same philosophical positions on abortion and gun rights. But Whitaker was the first candidate, Republican or Democrat, to call for ending legislators' pensions. And her campaign was the only one to really give Republicans heartburn in competitive open seats in Western Kentucky.
And our next award is for the biggest waste of money spent in a campaign. And there were a few races that could have qualified for this, like Republican candidate Chris Thieneman, for instance, spent 6 figures on his losing bid for the 37th State Senate seat. But the winner of the biggest waste of money on a campaign is 3rd House District candidate Jason Crockett. Crockett is a radio station manager in his hometown in Western Kentucky who ran as a Republican in the race for the open seat vacated by Representative Brent Hausman. And Crockett pumped $90,000 of his own money into the race. He told us over the phone that he'd been saving that money to buy himself a new house. Instead, Crockett invested it in the race, but unfortunately came up short on Election Day.
Our next award also has to do with money, or at least what campaign cash is usually spent on. But not all ads are created equal. And this year, one group deserves special mention for a clumsy ad strategy, which in some cases backfired on the candidates it was trying to support. In the least effective ads category, our winner is the Kentucky Family Values PAC. This Democratic PAC sent out mailers trying to link Republican House and Senate candidates to David Williams, even after Democratic Governor Steve Beshear was preparing to appoint Williams to be a judge and leave the Senate. And the Super PAC's radio ad in the 2nd House District got some key facts wrong. It incorrectly stated that Republican candidate's company took federal subsidies when it was actually his brother's. The ad got pulled, and that allowed Republicans to paint the Democratic candidate, Kelly Whitaker, as having, quote, allies who were running false attacks.
And with hundreds of commercials that ran across the state this fall, it's hard to pick the best, but it's a little easier to pick the one that made us laugh the hardest. So the funniest ad goes to Andy Barr for his seasonally appropriate ad against Ben Chandler that ran just before Halloween.
It's going to be something really scary for Halloween this year, so I decided to be Congressman Ben Chandler. I saw him on TV trying to scare old people, like my grandma, and then Chandler was picking on coal miners. I know he's done some freaky things in Washington. Chandler hangs out with President Obama, taking people's money like it's candy. Boo! Ben Chandler. He's one scary guy.
Another Barr ad is the winner of our next category, which is Best Supporting Actor in a Campaign Ad. And I'm sure you can all guess which one we're talking about. Yes, the winner is Heath Lovell from the infamous coal ad. Lovell is in the green, talking about the jobs that he said Ben Chandler and Barack Obama are to blame for killing. Chandler's campaign said Lovell was no coal miner. He was actually a wealthy coal executive playing dress-up. And the argument went on for weeks. In the end, though, Chandler probably took the biggest hit for that spat, and Lovell, regardless of whether you consider him more of a miner or a mine executive, played a key supporting role.
And a lot of politics, of course, is about packaging. And this year, one candidate stood above the rest when it came to having a campaign uniform. So the award for the most limited wardrobe goes to Randolph Vance, the independent candidate in the 6th Congressional District race. We first began to notice Vance's favorite outfit when we interviewed him a few months ago. Then he wore the same UK blue outfit on the 6th Congressional District debate on KET, and he's even wearing it in his Facebook profile picture, which is also his campaign site.
And that brings us to the final award of this election season. Often the best candidates are the ones who learn from their mistakes. And this year's award for Most Improved Candidate goes to, you guessed it, Andy Barr. 2 years ago, Barr was a generic candidate, sticking to generic talking points. One of the reasons he's now the congressman-elect from Central Kentucky is that he found a central theme this year. The coal strategy worked, even to the surprise of some of his fellow Republicans. And he outworked Ben Chandler, connecting with voters in the new part of the district that was supposed to have helped the Democratic incumbent. And those are the key reasons that Barr is now heading to Washington. So to you candidates who fell short this year, keep that in mind in 2014. All right, Jacqueline, thank you so much for co-hosting these awards. But unfortunately, we won't get to do this again for another 2 years. All right, you never know what you're going to find when creeping on candidates' Facebook pages. This week, less than 24 hours after losing his race in the 16th State House District, the Republican challenger in that race announced on Facebook that he might now run for Congress. Yes, Chris Hightower updated his status to say, U.S. Congress 2014, clear a path. He went on to write, I'll primary Whitfield, meaning Ed Whitfield. I was going to primary Senator McConnell, but since he threw me a bone, I'll stand down. By that, he's referring to the $1,000 McConnell's leadership PAC donated to Hightower's campaign. Minutes after posting that, a Hightower for Congress fan page was created, and the first post by that page said, quote, we were trying to convince Chris to run for Congress in 2014, but I'm pretty sure that was Chris himself making those posts. And recognize the face on the next post? Yes, that's the next post on the page was the story Jacqueline Pitts did about his news. Jacqueline spoke with Hightower the day of the post, and he told her that he was considering a run for another office, but really hadn't decided which level yet. Well, we'll give him this. He is quite determined. And if you think we had some strange candidates here in Kentucky in this election cycle, well, in Virginia, there was a candidate for U.S. Senate that was of the feline variety. Yes, the third opponent of George Allen and Tim Kaine was a cat. He even ran a campaign ad during the election.
They tried, you tried. It's okay to make a change. It's okay to vote the humans out. It's okay to elect Hank for Senate. Hank is an accomplished independent leader, and he fights for you, not a partisan agenda. Vote Hank for U.S. Senate.
That's serious, by the way. And so how did Hank do in the general election? Well, he got 6,000 votes. All right, so let's just get this straight. Independent candidate in the 6th Congressional District here in Kentucky, Randolph Vance, only received more than 2,000 votes more than a cat? Apparently. All right, and that pretty much wraps up another show and another election season, but I'll see you back here on Monday. In the meantime, check out the developments, including who wins the Republican nomination on Saturday to replace David Williams in the Senate. We'll have that on mycn2.com. Just remember to click on Pure Politics. And if you missed any of our post-election shows, check them out on demand. That's Insights Channel 103. Thanks for watching tonight, and thanks for being informed. But there's just one more thing before we close tonight. Earlier in the show, we showed you the soon-to-be new lawmakers who won on Tuesday, so we thought it would be only fitting to pay tribute to the 5 incumbents who lost in congressional and state legislative races this week.
The in-depth interest of the fans is never served to their satisfaction by the pieces of news from the paper or the radio or the television. But to have that concentrated report of what's going on with Kentucky sports is just food that they're hungry for. KSTV is the fans, that's their diet.